May I begin by wishing you all and all yours a much happier and a much brighter new year, and also by thanking you for the resilient manner in which you have resumed your responsibilities on the front line with such admirable tenacity and devotion and a deep sense of vocation for other people's children, for whom we and you are doubly responsible, as we've often said. Now, it was way back in June 2017 that cohort one of this current series of Head Teachers Leadership Academies formed up. And on a recent Zoom call, one of their number, Alison Horn, came up with the memorable phrase, which has been oft repeated since and attributed to her: how can we grab the silver linings out of this COVID cloud? How can we grab the silver linings out of this COVID cloud? And I've been thinking a lot about that and writing a few of them down, as I've heard back from so many of you on a series of Zoom calls. Let's think of some now. The centrality of our schools to the rhythm of our daily national lives, the centrality of our schools. The gratitude of our parents, some unexpected gratitude from the most unlikely parents who've discovered what it is to actually endeavour to keep children attentive and to task. What about the importance of an all-round education, not merely a trot to an exam and a qualification and a piece of paper which might satisfy some, but the training of an all-round personality, of character, of how a person's inner strength and grace can be perceived from the youngest of ages and brought on by the most remarkable and sometimes the most unlikely of people. And what then about the resilience shown by families? And they have shown fantastic resilience. And chapeau, as the French would say, to families at this time, as indeed by you all on the front line in support of families and care workers and those key workers who are working so resolutely and so resiliently on behalf of us all. And the pastoral opportunities, that's come up a lot. People finding opportunities to be kind, to be gracious, to be useful, to be positive and purposeful in their communities in a manner in which was never perhaps seen of late, might have been under cover or unseen, unheralded, but now much more out in the open. And then there is, of course, the silver lining of the strength of our school leaders, who are at their best when they're allowed to get on with it, to lead from the front, responsible for their own schools, for their own people. Now, way back on the 20th of April last year, 20th of April 2020, 100 years to the day of my father's birth, my late father's birth, he would have been 100 on the 20th of April, I was beginning to sense some of these silver linings, a phrase he often used with us. Look for the silver linings, boys and girls. Looks for the silver linings. And so I began to write a paper, a short paper, because, as you know, I don't have much time for those reams and reams of papers that never get read, but I do have all the time in the world for a two-pager that makes some sort of sense. And so I set myself that task of writing a two-pager. It's a little longer than that, and it's entitled Be the Change. And I'm very grateful to Callum McSween, the former head of service, head of education in the Highlands, for his help in bringing it together in an attractive, we hope, useful, easily referred to Be the Change paper. And that is going to be sent out to all of you with this broadcast. Later on last summer, it might have been July or August, I was invited to write 200 words on the moral purpose of education. The moral purpose of education. And that will also reach you shortly, along with the Be the Change paper. This is what I wrote. The moral purpose of education, in its broadest sense, is to recognize that we are all three-dimensional beings of mind and body and spirit. From these three aspects come opportunities to grow and develop values for life, creating the seeds of a society based on wisdom, justice, compassion, and integrity. It is from these values that the morally purposeful educator develops the spark that ignites the inner greatness of another person's child, reflected not merely in a string of public examination results, but in a closer realization of what it means to be fully alive to life and its many opportunities. Success in life and living is not ultimately measured in the times when things have been going well, but rather in the many times when we have failed and fallen down and somehow got up again to face the future without fear or favor of the crowd. In those times, it will not be to a textbook, nor to a piece of paper that we turn. Rather, it will be to the morally purposeful education, or even to the example of the educator, who took the time and trouble to see us through, and who recognized our ongoing potential. The moral purpose of those responsible for education at whatever level should then be to establish a collective aim to keep true to their vocational drive to be the best they can be for those in their charge and care. And the passage ends, more trust, more confidence, more joy in learning. I sometimes think, ladies and gentlemen, that we learn an awful lot more than we could ever imagine from the young people in our charge and care. It may be your own children. It will certainly be other people's children. And it may at my age and stage be from your grandchildren. And so it was that Elizabeth, my wife, and I were able, permittedly, to take two of our grandchildren, Beau and Gracie, aged 11 and coming up 9, to the Royal Botanic Gardens in Edinburgh. We had a wonderful walk on a very frosty morning, and Beau summoned me across to see a bench, a park bench. "Grandad," he said, "Grandad, you must come and see this." And it was a rickety old park bench. It had seen the best of its time, but inscribed you could still see the writing, the letters, which said that hope forms the future, ... after the storm. Hope forms the future, ... after the storm. And Beau said, "Grandad, can I borrow your phone?" And I said, "Well, not if you're going to play a game on it, darling." And he said, "No, I want to take a photograph of it." And he took a photograph of it so that he could put it on the family WhatsApp group. And so the whole family, within a moment, loved Beau. And that's what he wrote, that hope forms the future after the storm. Hope forms the future after the storm. We must grasp the silver linings. We must be the change. And so confidently and attractively live out the moral purpose of education in all its fullness. We must not let this moment pass. We dare not let the generation of our and other people's children and grandchildren down. For yes, we can be the change.